right, y'all. I got some breaking news right now. This is the Ninth Circuit rules that National Guard can deploy to Portland. So in this article it says, a divided federal appeals court for the Ninth Circuit on Monday overturned a temporary restraining order put in place by a federal judge in Portland, removing a legal impediment that was preventing the Trump administration from sending National Guard troops to Portland, Oregon. After considering the record at this preliminary stage, we conclude that it is likely that the president lawfully exercised his statutory authority, the majority wrote in its decision. It's unclear what impact this ruling will immediately have on the ground. The Ninth Circuit's decision applies to only one of two temporary restraining orders that U.S. District Judge Karin, K-A-R-I-N, Immergut, I-M-M-E-R-G-U-T, issued this month, blocking the deployment. Right now, until the District Court acts on the second TRO, National Guard members from Oregon or any other state cannot deploy, Oregon Governor Tina Kotek said in a statement. The ruling came in the wake of a series of Trump authorizations to deploy National Guard troops to American cities, including Los Angeles, Washington, D.C., and Chicago. President Trump has said the deployments are necessary to protect the work of immigration and custom enforcement agents and reduce crime. On October 16th, a federal appeals court upheld an earlier district court ruling in Illinois temporarily blocking the president's federalization and deployment of the National Guard there. The Trump administration has asked the Supreme Court to intervene. Interesting, like these guys keep trying to block. But finally, something's getting done about it. So, it says the Trump administration federalized 200 members of the Oregon National Guard on September 28th, after the president described Portland on social media as war-ravaged and under siege from attack by Antifa and other domestic terrorists. This characterization is false, according to local and state officials, residents, and journalists on the ground. Oregon Governor Tina Kotek, K-O-T-E-C, told NPR on October 6th that the president's portrayal was ludicrous. Of course, these people are going to say that because they're ludicrous. I'm insane. They're so nuts. Okay. So it says, we had thousands of people in the streets of Portland for the Portland Marathon. She said, the city is beautiful. The city is thriving. Let's think about that. Portland. She says the city is beautiful and the city is thriving. You guys can check the news. Forget the fake news. And you can see, is it? There was once a time it was. Now is not the time. All right, so it says, we're going to continue here. The federal government has argued in court documents that the National Guard is needed to protect an immigration and customs enforcement facility in Portland that has been the site of protests since June. They wrote that protesters had assaulted federal officers with rocks, bricks, pepper spray, and incendiary devices, causing injury. In their own court documents, attorneys for the city of Portland and the state of Oregon wrote that the protests had been small and largely peaceful for months. In a declaration provided by the court, Craig Dobson, an assistant chief with the Portland Police Bureau, stated that the protests that the protests have never been so out of control that local officers couldn't respond. In fact, on any given weekend, he stated, the nightlife in Portland's entertainment district was warranted greater PPB resource than the small night protest in front of ICE facility. So PPB it stands for Portland Police Bureau in this article. The federal government, however, has argued that things have been quieter because 115 federal police officers were sent to Portland this summer to help protect ICE building there. To help protect the ICE building there. It says some of those federal officers have since been sent back, and while it's unclear how many remain, the federal government says their deployment is a strain on resources. In response, attorneys for the state of Oregon have said such deployments are a normal part of federal policing. A part of the federal police's responsibilities. The lower court blocks the deployment. It says on October 4th, Emmer Gutt, the U.S. District Judge, granted the city and state a temporary restraining order preventing the federal government from deploying the National Guard to Portland. I mean, these judges are just nuts. Like, how are they still out? Like, I'm still trying to figure out, like, how these people that say they're for law and order are just what do you want to call them? Let's see. You figure it out. I don't want to get in trouble. But I don't understand how they're supposed to be protecting us and our best interest, and they're not. They really aren't. And you just look around and see. It says the president can federalize National Guard members if there's a foreign invasion, a rebellion, or a danger of one, or an inability to carry out federal laws with regular forces. Emmer Gutt wrote that the Trump administration did not have legitimate basis. Listen to that. I'm a loss for words. So it says again, Emmer Gutt, Immergut, wrote that the Trump administration did not have a legitimate basis for federalizing the National Guard because the protests in Portland had been generally peaceful, end quote. That's what he says, generally peaceful, since June, and did not prevent federal law enforcement officers from doing their job. She wrote that the Trump administration described only a few incidents of protests clashing with federal officers in September before the National Guard federalization. They involved people shining overpowered flashlights in the eyes of drivers, posting a photograph of an unmarked ICE vehicle online, and setting up a makeshift guillotine. I can't pronounce that word, sorry y'all. Guillotine, whatever, to intimidate federal officials. Sorry. I'm just tripping out over here because they just keep getting away with crazy stuff. These incidents are inexcusable, Emmer Gutt wrote, but they are nowhere near the type of incident that cannot be handled by regular law enforcement forces. Sure, you guys have been doing a great job. You've been doing fantastic. I mean, seriously, they didn't care until the federal government says we're going to step in because you can't do your job. And they're like, whoa, wait a minute here. let me figure this out. The following day, despite her ruling, Trump sent 200 federalized California National Guard members to Oregon. A memo from the Department of Defense also authorized up to 400 members of the Texas National Guard to deploy to Portland and Chicago. Says Emmer Gutt then granted a second order blocking the Trump administration from sending any federalized members from any National Guard to Oregon. Of course he blocked it. He, she, whatever, I don't even know who it is. Like, seriously. It says, and its appeal to the Ninth Circuit and Trump administration said in court documents that the lower court judge had immersible second-guessed the commander-in-chief military judgments. In October 6, White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt which we love, she's freaking awesome, said in a press briefing, "With all due respect to the judge, I think her opinion is untethered in reality and in the law." I love that. "I think her opinion is untethered in the reality and in the law." She went on to say the president was using his authority as commander-in-chief. Well, anyways, going further in this article, the appeals court sides with President Trump. Finally, somebody with some sense. Normally they don't have any sense. I don't know what happened to with the Ninth Circuit Court. They're normally the ones that we have a huge problem with. And lately, they've been making a little bit of sense. So anyway, tell me what you guys think about it. And let me know in the comments.